That's our thing.
So are you waiting for me now?
Yes.
Okay. First off, it's wonderful to see this many people here for one of these. I don't usually command this big a crowd, but thank you for coming. And it means a lot to Mr. Curtin. I'm sure it does. To see all these faces and everything. People that recognize that veteran service is something that needs to be honored and remembered. A real quick background, about 8 years ago, excuse me, Transitions Life Care realized that a lot of our veterans were coming to this stage in life and nobody had ever said thank you for your service. So they went to the bars and all the hotels and rounded up a bunch of us veterans and give us a little bit of training and said, "Would we do this?" And it's been an honor and privilege for me to do it for the last 8 years. I think I've received more out of this program than I did my own service or 27 years in law enforcement. I think this is the most appreciative thing, and I get the most out of it. I'm sure more than he's going to get. But he has all this wonderful family and friends here, and I'm seeing more from work, it looks like, than actually from the service. These people, these World War II veterans, were a special group. They were called the Greatest Generation. I think Tom Brokaw wrote a book called The Greatest Generation, which is an excellent read. I think describes this generation quite well. They were drafted. I know my dad was drafted. He had 3 kids at home. He didn't know when he was going to come back. I don't know if he volunteered or if he were drafted. He did volunteer. So the people that stand there and said, "I'll go," it's amazing because they had no idea where they're going. Their life was no longer the same, no longer mom and dad there to help them. They learned probably the first night that they're responsible for everything they do. And there's consequences to be paid if you don't do it right. And there's consequences in World War II that were greater than getting yelled at or something. You may be responsible for your comrade's life. I'd like to read a poem that I think depicts a soldier better than anything else. And it is called a poem for a soldier. There is a discipline in a soldier, you can see it when he walks. There is honor in a soldier, you can hear it when he talks. There is courage in a soldier, you can see it in his eyes. There is loyalty in a soldier that he will not compromise. There is strength in a soldier that beats from his heart. A soldier isn't a title any man can be hired to do. A soldier is the soul of that man, very deep inside of you. A soldier's job isn't finished after an 8-hour day or a 40-hour week. A soldier is always a soldier, even while he sleeps. A soldier serves his country first, and his life is left behind. A soldier has to sacrifice what comes first in the civilian's mind. If you are a civilian, I'm saying this to you. Next time you see a soldier, remember what they do. A soldier is the reason our land is the home of the free. A soldier is the one that is brave, protecting you and me. If you are a soldier, I'm saying this to you. Thank God for every soldier. Thank God for what you do. We've got a certificate here for you today, Mr. Curtin. Do you mind if I call you Terry? Everybody else call me Terry.
Yeah.
This is from Transition Life Care. Terry, it says, "We appreciate our veterans. Terrence M. Curtin, United States Army. We pay special tribute to you for your military service to America and for advancing the universal hope of freedom and liberty for all." So I have an American flag for your nightstand. And can we pin the flag on him now? We're pinning an American flag pin on him. I have some I'll leave on the table. I didn't realize we had this many people. But wearing this flag pin, I wear it proudly. And if somebody asks you, "Why are you wearing that flag pin?" it's in honor of Terrence Curtin's service.
Yeah.
Not only from transition, but I personally would like to thank you for your service. Thank you very much, sir. Is there anybody that would like to share a story that won't embarrass him too badly about his service or his career? I understand he was a veterinarian and was a dean at the North Carolina State. Amazing.
Well, I don't know a lot about his service, but I do know that he was in the occupational forces of Berlin, and that he had the very best job, which was he worked for the quartermaster, which meant he had access. They had access to everything. They had access to petrol. They actually had a boat, and there was a lake, and that they had a boat and they had gas, and they could get around Berlin on this lake because it was divided between the Russians and in the Allied forces. And so there was basically barriers, so you couldn't get from one place to the other, but across the lake you could get there. And you know, there were things that were on that side that we wanted, and there were things on our side that they wanted, and there was some exchange of goods so that, you know, people got what they needed. But and I know that he had quite a story of his occupation there, of being on those forces and all the stuff that he did.
I can't imagine. It must have been very interesting how the people of Berlin felt about the Americans, depending on where their allegiance was. I had the opportunity to speak to a lady whose father, she grew up behind the wall when the wall was erected. And she was on the wrong side, she was on the eastern side. And her father was a grocery store manager. And the Communist Party thought that it would be good for him because he's a leader of men. So they sent him to indoctrination after indoctrination. But she said it wasn't that bad, except if you wanted to travel. And of course, she was told at a very early age what she would be doing for a career. I mean, everything was decided for her. But I've been to Germany, and you talk to people, and depending on, again, where their sentiments lie, they'll be the first thing they may say is, oh yes, the United States bombed that building during the war. They don't talk about the reconstruction,
Sure.
quite often. And I know I did a recognition for a bombardier on a B-17 during the siege of Berlin. And the children all knew when they heard the sirens in Berlin to get out of town, to run to the edge of town. And so this particular plane would fly out around, roll down their windows, come in real low, throw candy out to the kids, and then button up and go in and do their bombing raids.
When I was stationed in the Army, and you have different levels of schools, most of us veterans know that once you make certain rates or certain rates, what is it called? Oh gosh, it's been a while, 20 years. Anyway, when I went over there after our school, we get a 30-day leave, and we get like 4 or 5 days, and you can go to Berlin, they send you to Berlin, but the trains, I peeked one night when you weren't supposed to. And here you had the Russian soldier just looking at you, go ahead, mess with me. You know, and it was really unbelievable what I saw and how people reacted. And when you went onto the east side, because you got a chance to go on the east side during my time. And when we went over, it was just something else to see the kids come right up to you. But the adults, you could see like the weight was just so much on their shoulders. They were beaten, they were weighed down, they were tired. And they made all sorts of little goods. I remember picking up stuff, I still have one of them. And it was just something else to see. And then when you saw the wall, my heart just dropped. Because they had crosses in the cement. Crosses in the name of the person, if they could, that crossed that wall and got killed. I mean, before the wall came down, I don't know what they have over there now, but it was something else. And Terry, I'm glad you were with the quartermasters because you had a little bit of everything. There's no doubt about it.
And so many of you all came because you spent a very important part of my dad's life too. Not only was the military part of very important, but the School of Veterinary Medicine, the College of Veterinary Medicine, sorry. And I'm sure there's many great memories from y'all's. So please share if you feel the need.
And thank you for your service, and I'm sure there's other veterans in the room. Thank you for your service as well. There was one other story, I think it's my favorite, and that the gentleman was in the army, and they literally fought their way across France with the idea they were going to meet the Russians at the river. And they finally made it, and I asked him, I said, did you actually meet the Russians? He said, yeah, we actually shook hands. And things had calmed down a bit, and he said that evening his lieutenant came up and asked him, do you have a dress uniform? And he said, yes, I do. And he said, put it on and meet me at the Jeep in about 10 minutes. And when the Germans were taking over France, a lot of the towns in Paris, they would pop open the cobblestones and bury wine underneath the cobblestones so the Germans couldn't find it. And all this gentleman said to me was, he the lieutenant went into town that night and the cobblestones were popping up. Well, thank you everybody for coming. It's really special. I'm sure he appreciates it, and I appreciate having this many people. Sometimes just me and a patient, but thank you very much. And, like I say, if you're a veteran, thank you. And if you're not a veteran, and you see a veteran because of a license plate or a pin or a hat or something, don't just give them a wave across Lowe's, hey, thank you. Go up and shake their hand and thank them. You'll be amazed how much they appreciate it and how much it means to them. Thank you once again, Gary.
I'd like to say something about the
Sure.
start of the veterinary college.
Yeah.
There were actually 5 members that came out of agriculture, 4 out of agriculture, and then Terry joined us from his place in, was it Indiana?
Purdue, yeah.
Purdue, that's right.
And then Missouri.
And
And then Missouri.
so all of that excitement, with only 5 people, we shortly put on a couple more. But it was a real exciting time to be a part of that, being a member of that organization. And you're talking about a leader, he was really a leader to get us in shape and start from zero and get to what's there today. So I'm proud to have been a part of it, and Terry, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was
Anybody else?
a long time ago. Terry pulled me out of the trenches in the clinic, and I got to go spend a few years with him down in the dean's office. And one thing I did learn about Terry during that time was his commitment to the vision of what the veterinary school at NC State was. That's why it's in Raleigh and not in Greensboro.
Right.
And I remember some of you recall it was trying to push it in that direction to AT&T. Well, I think that, Terry, if there's one thing that embodies the opinions and feelings of most of us here, is that your commitment to that vision was just incredible. And it has borne true. I mean, we have a world-class institution with world-class faculty, and I think it started with a seed, you guys out of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and a commitment to that vision that grew it to what it is today and will be tomorrow. So that we can never take away from you, Terry. That's your legend.
Okay, so I'm gonna say a few words. I was one of the first faculty members hired from outside, and I came here and there was the small group. I say the dean and the deanlets were there, and, but we were the first ones hired. But just to give you some idea of the philosophy that Terry Curtin sort of had for me. You know, you go to most